2 weeks till Election Day. President Trump headed to PA after stopping in AZ.
I'm not just running against Biden. I'm running against the left-wing media and the Washington swamp, and I've been running against it from the beginning.
The Commission on Presidential Debates announcing a new rule. The candidates' microphones will be muted at times. They say it's so they can't interrupt each other.
Hunter Biden's laptop is not part of some Russian disinformation campaign.
Even if the Russians were behind the story, why does that alleviate the responsibility of journalists to examine whether or not Joe Biden actually engaged in misconduct?
The Senate Judiciary Committee will try to prepare subpoenas Thursday for big tech executives.
We need answers before the election because this is dangerous.
Actress Kirstie Alley pushing back on Hollywood, doubling down on her vote for Donald Trump.
That I'm really tired of career politicians. I like that Trump has a lot of energy. I like that he has more energy than any human being I've actually ever seen.
He had 7 events last week. He's going to have between 2 and 5 events the rest of the way. And Joe Biden, where was he? Does anyone know where Joe Biden? Where's he going to be tomorrow?
Home. He's staying at home.
Really?
Until after the debate, Brian.
Okay, that's an interesting tactic, Ainsley.
Look who's here with us. Will Cain. Yesterday, Steve was losing his voice. Will, we're so glad to have you, and you're going to get an interview with the president today. The president's going to join us at 8 o'clock. Are you excited?
I'm so excited. I mean, I feel a little bit upstaged here. It's my first debut on Weekday Fox and Friends. I'm upstaged by the President of the United States, but I'll cope and we'll have fun. And there's a lot of important questions to ask the president this morning. There are so many questions, and we are glad to have you here. Yes, we are 2 weeks exactly away from the election, 2 days until the last debate, and we have the president on at 8. We have so much to get to, right, Brian?
Yeah, so let's talk about what happened yesterday. You hear about the secret debate commission. They're not going to be partisan. They're not going to be kowtowed to whoever gets the nomination for each party. They're going to make their rules, and they're hard and fast. And negotiations are going to be tough, and they're not going to move. And then out of nowhere, last week, they decided 7 in the morning, hours after the vice presidential debate, to get rid of all the post-game talk and decide to make it virtual. The president hops on with Maria and says, I am not doing a virtual debate, and then let the interesting thing about the moderator come out. It turns out he claimed it seems to be a bit of a anti-Trumper, and that news came out that he has tweeted anti-Trump views. He spent a lot of his working life working for Ted Kennedy and interned for Joe Biden. That was controversial. And then we come up to debate number 3 on Thursday, and we learn there's going to be a mute button. Here's what the Commission of the Presidential Debates said in an official statement. Both campaigns this week again reaffirmed to their agreement to the 2-minute uninterrupted rule. The Commission is announcing today that in order to enforce this agreed-upon rule, the only candidate whose microphone will be open during these 2-minute periods is the candidate who has the floor under the rules. Will.
That's true. We now have a mute button, Ainsley, for at least the first 2 minutes of every answer, every topic for this debate. I will say the response many of the times when it comes to disagreement, at least when it comes to alleged bias, even confirmed bias from the left, has been silence. Silence. Silence from the big tech companies, silence in the debates, now silence with the mute button. But I think, Ainsley, this is something that could actually end up helping the president. I think letting Joe Biden talk is something the president and his advisors have talked about could end up being something to his benefit in this debate.
Well, there was so much interruption in that first debate, so this is the result of that. Tim Murtaugh, who is with the campaign, he's the communications director, he said his problem with this is, he says there's an awful lot of power that you're giving to one staffer with the commission. And he says the commission, he feels, is biased, and he feels like it's in favor of Joe Biden. He said they're bending over backwards to make things easy for Joe Biden. But a lot of people are happy about it because they do want both of these candidates to have a chance to talk. The commission said this allows for the voters to have an opportunity to be informed of what the candidates' positions really are, and it's to provide some structure. It's a 2-minute uninterrupted rule. Ari Fleischer says this.
2-minute buzzer is only at the beginning of each segment. That's the only time the candidates will be muted. For the rest of it, they're going to be able to go back and forth with each other. And as you know, and I think you believe this too, it would behoove the president to interrupt a little bit less. And then as for foreign policy, there is still one segment on the debate Thursday night for national security. And that, of course, is the window for President Trump to get into the various issues that he needs to get into.
Yeah, national security will be the foreign policy. But my goodness, don't you remember in 2012 when Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, then president, was talking about Russia? He said, well, Russia, you said, is our #1 strategic foe. The 1980s called, and they want their foreign policy back. Barack Obama ended up incredibly wrong on that, and Mitt Romney looks so much better. But those are the things that were being flushed out shoulder to shoulder in a round table. Now there's no foreign policy heading, and people are focusing on Hunter Biden's emails. I get that, but it's much different than that. Secretary of Defense Gates, under Barack Obama, came out and said Joe Biden's been wrong about every foreign policy and national decision over the last 40 years. Don't you think Joe Biden should be confronted with that statement? Don't you think Joe Biden should be confronted with the fact that he went up to General Mattis and said, we're pulling all the troops out despite your recommendation, and in came ISIS, who Barack Obama called the JV team, and we're still trying to get rid of ISIS today? And don't you think that Joe Biden should be brought out and asked about the 2 islands that China made and promised not to militarize, and they militarized them, and he did absolutely nothing? These are just some examples of the debate that would help the American people vote, Will.
But, Brian, I want you to think about this. Going back to the format for 1 second, if it's 2 minutes uninterrupted for both candidates in 15-minute segments, that leaves a lot of meat on the bone. That leaves 11 minutes for President Trump and Joe Biden to go back and forth. That can be on foreign policy. That can be for issues that were never discussed in the first debate. With the second debate being canceled, there's a lot of leeway and a lot of meat on the bone.
I just hope the moderator doesn't interrupt and say, wait a second, that's not the topic.
Well, this was supposed to be a foreign policy debate. That's why the Trump administration agreed to this third debate. That's why they sent a letter to the commission, the campaign did, because they're upset with that. They said, we will participate, but the rules have changed, and we didn't agree to that. Well, the controversy surrounding Hunter Biden's alleged emails that Brian was talking about earlier over his business dealings intensifying this morning. Fox News obtaining new documents involving Hunter's laptop in the FBI.
All right, Griff Jenkins live in Washington with those documents, Griff.
Good morning, Brian Ainsley and Will. Yeah, here we go. Brand new images obtained by Fox News' Mike Emanuel appear to show Hunter Biden's signature on a receipt for laptop repair. Fox News has not verified the signature is his, but Hunter's name also appearing in the Bill To section, and it contains an email and cell phone belonging to Hunter. Also recovered FBI paperwork containing several serial numbers and hard drives taken into possession from the repair shop owner. This after Fox News has obtained 4 alleged Hunter Biden emails last week, 2 about his business dealings in Ukraine when his father was vice president, and 2 about his 2017 business dealings in China, one of which verified by Fox News as being authentic by a source on the email chain. This, as Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe throwing cold water on claims the Russian agents are behind the alleged emails.
It is Adam Schiff. They said that the intelligence community believes that Hunter Biden's laptop and the emails on it are part of some Russian disinformation campaign. Let me be clear. The intelligence community doesn't believe that because there's no intelligence that supports that.
Meanwhile, a group of House Republicans led by Andy Biggs of Arizona are calling on Attorney General Barr to appoint a special prosecutor to probe the Biden business dealings. And Senate Republicans looking to subpoena Facebook and Twitter Thursday for suppressing this story. So this is gaining traction. We'll see if it comes up in Thursday night's debate. It'll certainly, I think, come up in your interview at 8 o'clock with the president.
Yeah, thanks, Griff. Where it doesn't come up is Facebook. Where it doesn't come up is Twitter. Where it doesn't come up is almost all social media. And if you listen to the other networks, this is the only thing they'll say. Andrea Mitchell brings up the fact that this is about Rudy being used by Russians for disinformation. Adam Schiff said this is Russian disinformation. How do you explain the bill with Hunter's signature on it? How do you explain the fact that the FBI picked it up 11 months ago and we have not heard anything about this? Glenn Greenwald, who is known to be a left-wing journalist, with Tucker last night on what he's observing.
What is more dangerous than allowing the CIA constantly to be manipulating our politics by making cover for the Biden campaign by claiming anonymously that the Russians are behind this story and therefore you ought to disregard it, even if the Russians were behind the story? Why does that alleviate the responsibility of journalists to evaluate these emails, the way this information is being disseminated? It is a union of journalists who have decided that their only goal is to defend Joe Biden and elect him president of the United States, working with the CIA and the FBI and the NSA, not to manipulate our adversaries or foreign governments, but to manipulate the American people for their own ends.
And as unsavory as this is, the key, I think, that might affect the American people and how they vote would be not about Hunter and his addiction. People identify with that. Some great people get addicted to some horrible substances. We see it with fentanyl all the time. But I think the president should just focus on why is he doing international deals and what did Joe know about it and how did Joe, if at all, did he benefit from it?
Yeah, if I may, Brian, you said there's complete silence and, in fact, suppression from big tech companies like Twitter and Facebook. You're absolutely right. But what Glenn Greenwald is pointing out here is a total disinterest, a dismissal from other mainstream media companies as well. This idea that this is Russian disinformation, Ainsley, it's really backdrop. It's in context. The idea that perhaps Russia wants to play in this election as well, but there's no direct evidence that this story has anything to do with Russia. And Greenwald makes a very, very important point. What if they are? What if it's coming from Russia? That doesn't mean it's not true. You would think journalists would want to know, is this true? And as we know now, several aspects of this story have been authenticated. Some of the emails. We'll see what Fox has to say about the signature on the drop-off. There is a signature that says Hunter Biden. Is it his? That waits to be seen. The store owner he is saying that it was Hunter Biden who dropped off the laptop. Several details we now know, Ainsley, are true. And you would think journalists would be interested in finding out what is true.
There are 11 House Republicans that wrote a letter to Bill Barr saying the DOJ needs to get involved. We need a special counsel to investigate this. The bottom line, to your point earlier, Brian, is was he using his dad's position to profit the family? That's what we want to know, because he is running for president of the United States, and those questions need to be answered. Listen, this is such an interesting election. There is so much enthusiasm. If you look at the number of people that have already voted, there are 31.7 million ballots already cast, and that is as of Monday. So today, more people are going to be going to the polls. There are long lines at all of these polling sites. 53% of the people who have voted are Democrats, which is interesting because we kept hearing Republicans saying we need to go to the polls on the day of the election or go in person. These are people who have voted in person and people who have mailed in, but about 50% of them, 53%, are Democrats. So a lot of Republicans are out there voting already, too.
Right. That's very good. But the President of the United States made it clear. Show up in person if you can, because we want to make sure that every vote counts. A lot of people are critical of that, but a lot of people are, and that's why early voting could be beneficial as opposed to mail-in voting, where they say there's more mistakes made by good people that might forget to sign it, wrong envelope. The signatures don't match for whatever reason. They don't count, as opposed to going down there and doing the old-fashioned way, filling out a form, or if it is pulling a lever. In terms of states, look at this turnout in Texas. 4.1 million are pumped up to vote. 3.6, the two biggest states, of course. In Florida, just opened a couple of days, 2.5 million. And I could add this, in Duval County, 28,000 already have shown up. So that's, Florida's always going to be looked at. In fact, I don't see, Will, a way for the president to get elected without Florida.
No, it's hard to see that. What we're looking at here now is what? Record turnout when it comes to early voting. It's not just mail-in balloting we're looking at here. These are people going to polls early. And the Democrats suggest, or the numbers suggest, that Democrats might be the majority of that right now. It'll be interesting later. We'll talk to the President of the United States about whether or not that's concerning to the campaign, whether or not this is an indication that there's a lot of work to do come Election Day for people showing up at the polls. Yeah, a lot of people who are mailing in their ballots. The signature, Jillian, we're going to toss to you because she has headlines. Jillian, you had a question about what your signature needs to look like, right? It has to match your driver's license?
That's what I was told. Yeah, I was, because you constantly hear your signature has to match, your signatures to match. So my aunt actually called somewhere in Pennsylvania to ask them specifically just to be sure, and they said it had to match your driver's license. So that was what she was told in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Hey, Jillian,
yes.
Just a quick request. Are you putting football in this newscast?
To be perfectly honest with you, my computer wouldn't start, so I am haven't read these yet?
If you get to the Cowboy game, could you just skip over it because Will is a little upset?
I don't know that we can do that for you, but
let's see how good you are.
Let's go ahead and cold read
haven't read before.
Because I ran from another studio and the computer wouldn't start. There's a whole mess going on. It's fine. Let's take a look at your headlines right now. And it is deadline day for COVID-19 relief talks. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin will speak again today. Pelosi has given the White House until tonight to get a deal done and pass it before the election. Over in the Senate, a vote on new funding for the Paycheck Protection Program could happen as soon as today. A vote on a $500 billion stimulus bill is expected tomorrow. Ghislaine Maxwell's deposition from 2016 will be unsealed. A federal appeals court denying her attorney's request to keep it private. The deposition is from a defamation lawsuit by a woman who claimed Jeffrey Epstein sexually abused her as a minor and that Maxwell was involved. It has since been settled. Maxwell is separately charged with helping Epstein recruit young girls. She has pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial. The Senate is expected to work through the weekend to confirm Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. The Judiciary Committee will meet Thursday to recommend her nomination to the full Senate. Depending on how fast the process goes, a final vote could happen as soon as Monday. Republicans are expected to have enough votes to confirm her. I see football. The Arizona Cardinals flying high on Monday Night Football. From a Cowboys fan, but that injury to Prescott was just absolutely devastating. I feel for you guys. That game, though, those highlights a little tough to watch.
Dak's a great guy. You want good things to happen to good people. Yep. Unfortunately, this is 2020. I'll just give a piece of advice to the Cowboys. The reason you lose like that, see, that guy, he's not supposed to run by himself down the field. Right. I don't know if you know that about football.
It's a different defense.
Somebody should probably guard him.
It's a different defense. Hope he doesn't catch it.
And to my team, you need an offensive line. I mean, you got to help the quarterback out somehow.
And the Giants are getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. The Giants did win. The University of South Carolina won, and the Tampa Bay Rays, they're going to the playoffs, the World Series.
The
World
Series.
Hey, guys, can we stop talking sports? I have an interview coming up.
On Fox tonight. What, Brian?
Can we stop talking sports? I have an interview coming up right after the break.
I'm going to push the mute button on you.
Computer.
We're muting. Who back there, Toba, can you mute Brian's button, please? Okay, it's 17 minutes after the top of the hour. The director of national intelligence says the Hunter Biden story is not Russian disinformation. Our next guest is working on the New York Post reporting of this story and says what's telling is that Hunter and Joe Biden haven't denied the story either. We have more on that coming up next.
We know that this whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin.
Let me be clear. The intelligence community doesn't believe that because there's no intelligence that supports that. And we have shared no intelligence with Chairman Schiff or any other member of Congress that Hunter Biden's laptop is part of some Russian disinformation campaign. It's simply not true.
The Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, yesterday pushing back on House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff's claim that the Hunter Biden story is part of a Russian disinformation campaign ahead of the presidential election. Here to discuss this is New York Post op-ed editor and columnist Sohrab Ahmari. Sohrab, where did this come from? The Russian disinformation, it's always a concern. But how does a Russian pick up a laptop, sign Hunter Biden's name to it, and why does the guy who runs the computer repair shop call the FBI? How does Russia get involved in that?
Brian, this has been part of a surging pattern of paranoia for the past 4 years where Democrats, liberals, whenever they lose elections, it's the Kremlin's doing. Whenever there's bad reporting on a Democratic figure, it's the Russians doing. Whenever the snacks are missing in the fridge the following morning, it's the Russians doing and not midnight snacking. So it's just frankly ridiculous in this case. And of course, at the Post, we're so gratified to see the Director of National Intelligence reaffirm that this was not Russian disinformation. This is solidly, deeply reported material and more corroborated than any number of anti-Trump stories that appeared over the past 4 years.
What Mike Emanuel and others have been doing is looking at the email addresses and saying, hey, is this your email exchange? And they're saying yes. And we're putting it up as we get it and has confirmed it, as you are too. I can understand personal addresses not being public, but when if your opinion gets shelved, I want to find out the explanation. But if emails are proved authenticated, and they're not up there, that to me shows an incredible bias. Can you lead to any other conclusion?
None other. Look, someone asked me recently, do you stand by our reporting? I said, yes, of course we do. And so do Joe and Hunter Biden. Neither of them has said that these emails are inauthentic. Neither of them has said the drive doesn't belong to us. So what else could it be but the fact that big tech, Facebook and Twitter, are trying to use their levers of power to silence damaging reporting on one side of the political debate. And they're doing it to the oldest continuously published newspaper in America, founded by Alexander Hamilton. It's frankly shameful, and it demands action at a political level, because they're not just acting like companies anymore, they're acting like political publishers.
So, Rob, last question. What do you think is the most intriguing thing that you need answers to, since you're writing opinions about what your reporting side has found?
Well, I'm personally more interested, and I've been looking into what actually happens at these firms. And I'm doing a series, the first piece appears today in today's New York Post, about how Facebook employees feel about their censorship. And so many of them are open about the fact that that their company tilts left, and some of them are ashamed about it. Some of them are very concerned about what that will mean from a regulatory point of view. So I'm talking to a Facebook insider, so that's what's more intriguing to me, is these unaccountable powers that get to shape what Americans hear, read, and think.
And so, real quick, in that story, the guy fears, or the woman fears, your source fears, they're going to get fired if they come out, right? And they lean left. That person confirmed it.
Oh, absolutely. And this person, even though we were in a deserted restaurant, and they were looking over the shoulder, talking in hushed tones, because these companies have enormous power to go after whistleblowers. So this is like turn of the century type monopolies, except more powerful, because it's not just power over commodities like oil. It's power over people's minds. We know that circulation on Facebook of this story was 50% lower than circulation of typical anti-Trump stories 3 weeks before an election. This is unaccountable power like we haven't seen in this country, maybe ever.
And they don't care because they want a result in 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. Same thing we're seeing maybe perhaps with the debate. Sohrab Ahmari, hope you continue to find sources within these organizations that are willing to speak to you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, Fox News hitting Iowa's Senate race. This is a big one. Senator Joni Ernst hitting back after an email circulating on Twitter falsely claimed the Iowa Farm Bureau rescinded their support for her. So who's behind this disinformation campaign? We'll find out after the break. But first, before the presidential debate kicks off, we asked viewers to pick America's question from our friends at Fox Bet Super 6. And here's the winning question. Quote, how many times will Joe Biden say the phrase, "Come on, man," close quote, question mark. Enter for a free chance to win $50,000. Download the SuperBet Super 6 app and play the presidential debate game. Pick 6 possible outcomes. Then watch the debate on Fox News on Thursday to see how it all unfolds. Download the Fox Bet Super 6 app now to get started.
Good morning. Welcome back. And pumping the brakes. New York City will not be transferring homeless people from an Upper West Side hotel just yet.
Cheryl Casoni from our sister network Fox Business joins us live with the legal challenge. Cheryl.
Yeah, guys, good morning. Well, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio losing in court yesterday to a group of homeless men who refused to move from one luxury hotel that the city is paying for to another luxury hotel that the city is paying for. The men argued they would suffer massive psychological damage and irreparable harm. The city had planned to move 235 men from the Lucerne to a shuttered downtown Radisson, which the city said would be better for social distancing and would put them closer to their medical care, social, and drug treatment programs. Upper West Side residents had complained after 3 hotels in close proximity were converted into temporary homeless shelters to help stop the spread of the coronavirus. Open drug use, lewd behavior, prostitution, and harassment were all documented. Mayor de Blasio called that situation unacceptable. Last week, residents and businesses in the downtown area, where a permanent shelter has been prepared at the Radisson, filed a lawsuit in Manhattan Supreme Court to prevent the transfer as well. Another hearing for the homeless men is set for November 16th.
Interesting. I know the saga continues. Okay, so a pretty grim message from an Orlando company to its employees.
Yeah, about layoffs, and it's over the election, guys. So the president of Daniels Manufacturing in Orlando sent a letter to his employees warning them that there would be layoffs if Joe Biden wins the presidency. In the letter, he said that if Trump and the Republicans win, DMC, the company, will hopefully be able to continue operating as it has been. The letter was in their pay stubs. One employee telling a local TV station he was so offended he's decided actually to quit. And a lot of the employees have come forward about that letter from the president.
Yeah, I was going to say, can they do that?
Well,
interesting.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the legal side of it, but you know, I'd have to look at employment law. But to be honest with you, it's just something that most companies don't do. You really don't tell your employees, well, if you don't vote this way, you're going to get laid off, which is kind of what he was implying in these letters. And that's why about 170 of those employees actually went to the press and said, this really bothers us.
And then
this
there's
is
also
kind of
the free speech argument. So competing laws right there.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. There you go. Yeah, you're the lawyer. You tell me. Exactly, Todd.
Not a very good lawyer. Cheryl, thanks. With companies like that one already bracing for a Biden economy, the Democratic ticket still promises not to raise your taxes.
Joe Biden will not increase taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. Period.
I'm not going to raise taxes on a single solitary American making less than $400,000 a year. We won't pay a penny more. It's a guarantee.
All right, that's what they say, but a new study predicts a $6,500 hit to household incomes within 10 years under their plan. Helping us to make sense of it all, former chief economist for the U.S. International Trade Commission, Peter Morici. Peter, break down why Biden's claim that no one under $400,000 will pay taxes is factually challenged.
I do not have to do complex economic analysis. They want to reimpose the tax, as the Supreme Court called it, for not signing up for health insurance on the government exchanges if you don't have company insurance. So if you don't have company insurance and you don't sign up for a health insurance policy, you will be taxed by Joe Biden. And that includes the limousine driver that took me to the studio today, who hardly makes $400,000. So Twitter should knock that down. That should be the first tweet they block. Either Kamala Harris is ignorant of her own platform, or she lied to you today on this network.
All right, let's take a look at Joe Biden's economic agenda. The aforementioned tax plan, allegedly $3.05 trillion over the next decade, healthcare $750 billion, energy $400 billion, and regulation proposals $279 billion. Peter, what would those steps do to our economy?
Well, the biggest jobs creator in the United States right now is high tech, the technology sector. And the real jobs creation doesn't come from Twitter getting bigger on its own, or Facebook getting bigger on its own, or Microsoft or the others, but rather them acquiring startups, people with bright ideas in a garage who raise $1 million from angel investors and then sell out when the thing works out. Well, the angel investors, what they do, these venture capitalists, they'll buy into 5 or 10 of these startups. Only one will work out. They'll lose their $9 million on the others. But on the one that works out, they'll have to wait a long time to get their money. Inflation will go by, but they'll be able to do that at a low capital gains tax rate. You know, when they sell out, their gain will be taxed at, say, 25%. This will jump that to 60%. On top of that, a lot of these folks are old guys like me. So, you know, I'm more of a mind of, you know, how is this going to affect my estate? So on top of the 60% they'll have to pay on their capital gains, thanks to Joe Biden's tax plan, they'll also have to pay somewhere around 40% in estate tax when they die. They'll get stock. There'll be a step up on that. I mean, why would you invest $1 million in a startup, in 10 startups, if the one that works out, you're going to have to pay 80-90% before it's all over? This will kill investment in the tech sector. I got news for you. Without the tech sector pulling the economy, all those jobs right on down the line for accountants, lawyers, people who make sandwiches in the sandwich shop, and so forth, go away. This is a real jobs killer. Joe Biden, you know, it's a riot. You know, I don't know where they read their economics, but we've got Joe Biden's economists publishing op-eds in the Wall Street Journal saying that these taxes will increase growth. I have a very expensive education in economics. I have given very expensive educations in economics. Nowhere can I even open a Paul Krugman textbook and find that it says, if you want to create growth, raise taxes. If you want people to invest, raise taxes on investing. Everything
Pete, we gotta go.
read,
I hate to interrupt you. You were going off, man. Maurice fired up today on a Tuesday. We love when Maurice's fired up. Sorry we have to go for a commercial, but we appreciate it as always, Pete. Thanks.
Take care, guys.
You too.
Love him.
I kind of was scared to interrupt him. He was on a roll.
It is 26 minutes after the hour. The director of national intelligence blasting the notion Russians are behind Hunter Biden's alleged emails. Former DOJ official Francie Hakes says the real concern is bias at the FBI. She's live next to explain. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says he'll use his own experts to review any coronavirus vaccine approved by the feds. The latest war of words between the governor and the president.
No intelligence with Chairman Schiff or any other member of Congress that Hunter Biden's laptop is part of some Russian disinformation campaign. The people that complain the most about intelligence being politicized are the ones politicizing intelligence.
Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe dismissing any rumors that Hunter Biden's emails are part of a Russian smear campaign.
Joining us now to break down what is next, former DOJ official Francie Hakes. Francie, great to have you here as always. Shouldn't this once and for all take the legs out from those like Adam Schiff who say this is only Russian disinformation?
You know, Todd, you would think so. You would think they would stop claiming that the Russians are in control of the administration and everything that the administration says or does. But it doesn't seem to stop them when you have clear evidence from the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, that it is not Russian disinformation. The best evidence of this, as we would call it as a prosecutor, the best evidence is that the Biden campaign has not denied that the laptop belonged to Hunter Biden, nor that the emails are genuine. And you've got reports that a lawyer for Hunter Biden has asked the computer shop for the laptop back. Those things are all what we would call proof that the laptop is actually genuine.
Francie, what happens next? Because there are, as you know, still a lot of questions surrounding, the alleged emails, the alleged, ties overseas, business dealings. I mean, there's a lot of questions that people still have. One of the questions is about the FBI. The FBI allegedly had this information for a while now. So what happens next? Where does this go from here, specifically with the FBI?
Well, it's really interesting, Jillian. It's very distressing to know that the FBI had the laptop, reportedly anyway, during the impeachment of the president. Everyone said during impeachment of President Trump that impeachment is a quasi-criminal proceeding. And as such, the president then, at least the FBI, should have thought to themselves, the president has the right to exculpatory evidence. We've heard a lot about that in the Mike Flynn case. And here you had the president saying that he had a call with the president of Ukraine asking about the potential corruption of an American, that would be Joe Biden, allegedly. But then he was impeached for saying by the Democrats because they said that he was asking the Ukrainians to actually invent dirt. Well, the information on this laptop certainly makes it look as though it might have been real. That is, there might be real corruption here. There might be real tax crimes here when you think about the emails inside the laptop. And so the FBI, led by Chris Wray, a former assistant U.S. attorney, knew very well that the president might have been entitled to that as exculpatory evidence, and they sat on it. So I can't understand that. Right. I hope they're investigating the possible corruption and the possible tax issues.
It doesn't make sense. Meantime, quickly on this, an advisor to the president says President Trump will press Joe Biden on his son's email if the debate moderator doesn't. In the same vein as Jillian's question, why is this President Trump's job? There are so many individuals from the media to the FBI to other intel agencies to ask this question. Why does the president have to do it?
Well, I don't know, Todd. It's a great question. The president shouldn't have to do it, though it's a debate. I'm certain that he will. It ought to be a question from the moderator whether or not the vice president's son was using the influence of the vice president's office to profit while he was vice president from foreign governments, especially adversaries like China, is a question the media used to want to know of presidential candidates. It's absolutely unprecedented that there's this blanket of silence that has been put by the media on this topic. It is inexplicable to me. It's actually frightening for our democracy when the media won't do its job and root out what could be possible corruption of someone who is possibly about to be elected president.
Blanket of silence is the best descriptive term that I've heard so far. I've heard head in the sand. No, blanket of silence is correct. Francie Hakes, as always, we appreciate your insight early with us here on a Tuesday.
Thanks, Francie.
Thanks, y'all.
President Trump is slamming New York Governor Andrew Cuomo over his book tour. The president tweeting in part, Governor Cuomo has shown tremendously poor leadership skills in running New York. Bad time for him to be writing and promoting a book, especially since he has done such a poor job with COVID and crime. Cuomo dismissing the claim, saying the president has not learned any lessons. New York City Council member Joe Borelli joined us earlier to react.
The governor of New York is the one who has the shoddy record on COVID-19. This is the guy who doubted the original lockdowns. And now this governor wants us to just trust him over the CDC and the FDA in evaluating a virus.
Meanwhile, Cuomo says he will review any COVID-19 vaccine before distributing it to New Yorkers.
And Game 1 of the World Series now just hours away. The Tampa Bay Rays hoping to get their first ever championship. The Los Angeles Dodgers looking for their first title since 1988. I remember that one. The entire series will be played in Texas, the first neutral site since 1944. And remember, you can catch the game tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern only. Where, Jillian Mealy?
On Fox. You know, it's crazy. A year ago, I was leaving to cover the World Series. And I mean, what a week and a half to 2 weeks that was. But boy, has time changed.
We thought you had moved. You were gone so long.
I was gone so long.
Where's Mealy?
Went down to Game 7. Let's go to Janice Dean right now to see what she's tracking in the weather center, the weather bunker. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning. You know what? Arlington is going to look great. We do have a little bit of shower activity just to the south, the Gulf of Mexico, but the temperatures are going to be in the 80s, and we're going to be dealing with mostly sunny skies for the World Series on Fox. Let's take a look at the rest of the country because it's not so nice, unfortunately, across the northern plains, the upper Midwest. That's where we have a winter storm on the way. Yes, it's happening. Measurable snow for some of these areas as we get into the next couple of days. So not only the snow, but it's going to be colder than average, obviously, with windy conditions. So travel is going to be, not great, especially on the roadways. So look at all the snow that is moving in some cases over 6 inches in October, putting snow on those pumpkins. To the tropics we go, switching gears. Quite incredibly, we have the potential for a hurricane that could impact east of Bermuda. Certainly the large waves and the rough surf. That's what we're going to be watching for along the East Coast. Otherwise, not a bad forecast. And if you like the snow, certainly coming across portions of the northern plains and the upper Midwest a little bit early.
I like it, but not in October.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And by the way, I did sense a double promo there. When you were promoting Fox, you said it's also going to be mostly sunny. That wasn't lost on me. Nicely done.
I've been doing this a long time.
Nicely done, JD.
Okay.
Thanks so much,
Bye,
Janice.
Janice. It is 37 minutes after the hour. Rapper 50 Cent joining Kirstie Alley on board the Trump train.
There are very different reasons for supporting the president. Coming up next.
Here with more on the response. Good morning.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, guys. So Kirstie Alley, who is a vocal Trump supporter, posted a tweet on Saturday saying she voted for President Trump in 2016. She's going to vote for him again in 2020 because she believes he's the guy that could turn the economy around. And while about half the country agrees with her, many of her Hollywood colleagues went into attack mode. Judd Apatow, director, posted a tweet saying, Shelley Long was way funnier than you. Actress Patricia Arquette also chiming in, well, my vote for Biden canceled yours out. I have done my civic duty of the day. Alley was on Hannity last night to defend herself.
The other night I put out a tweet that simply said that I voted for him the first time and this time because he's not a politician. So then I got all this flood. I think that the big thing that I was mentioning in that tweet was that I'm really tired of career politicians. I'm tired of paying people to do nothing and take way too long to do it.
Alley also saying that she loves the president's energy and enthusiasm, and while a lot of high-profile folks attacked her on social media, her post also received about 280,000 likes on Twitter, so she is, of course, not alone, guys.
You know, Carly, we've been having a lot of fun with this next story all morning long, but not to get real serious here, but I think there could be something here in terms of what this could mean for votes. I swear, I'm not making this up. The topic is 50 Cent or 50 Cent says vote for Trump in light of Biden's tax plan. This is interesting.
Yeah, that's right. So the rapper posted a screen grab on Instagram that showed the top tax rates under Biden's tax plan. And they are very high. Look at those numbers right there. California, 62.6%, NYC, 62%. So he posted a caption sounding off saying, "What the bleep? Vote for Trump. I'm out. Bleep New York. The Knicks never win anyway." That was a landmine for me to read, guys. That post racking up over 300,000 likes. Many people commenting that, you know, you did that segment with Peter Morici before, you know, Biden saying that he's only going to raise taxes for people making over $400,000 a year. But of course,